Lions run to the Super Bowl starts Sunday night. Matt Stafford, the Rams, return to Detroit. You all know the storylines. Look, Brant, I need to know, man, this Lions team, we know how last season ended. This roster only got better, which we've talked about throughout the podcast. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to finish better than they did last year and make it back to the NFC Championship game. But this game as an opener and all the emotions attached to it, I need to know from you, Brant, do you think that this Lions defense is good enough and improved enough? Now, I know they beat the Rams last year in the playoffs. I'm aware. But Cooper Kupp, healthy. Puka Nacua, supposed to be healthy. You know, they've got Kyron Williams. They drafted Blake Corum, Michigan faithful. This offense is going to be pretty good, and we know who Matthew Stafford is. Do you feel like the Lions have improved their defense enough to win this game? And moving forward, are you a believer in what you see from a roster standpoint?
Dave, you know who I want to see play Sunday? I want to see DJ Reader play. I mean, that is it's a big swing guy right now. We really need him in the middle to help clog that up, take away that Rams run game, or at least help contain it, because we know what the receivers can do. So if they're also running wild, this is going to be a big issue. I expect to give up some yards to Stafford, Nacua, and Kupp. I totally understand what they're going to bring to the table. However, getting the big dudes in there to stop the run is going to be crucial this weekend. So, Dave, I would like to focus on the defensive line and what that might look like, and really just containing Kyron Williams and whatever Blake Corum's going to give them. So I think that's where the ball game starts and finishes for the Lions on defense is up front. They're going to have to be good enough to slow down that ground game. And can the secondary not give up the big play? Let's look for that too. Can they keep those dudes in front of them, not give up the deep ball? And just like last year, Dave, probably a dogfight late in the fourth quarter. Who's going to make the big play type deal? Because I see this thing coming right down to the wire.
Well, if it's anything like the preseason game in Detroit, it's going to be a playoff-like atmosphere, and I fully expect that. And I do expect the Lions to win. I think they're the better football team, and I think that they'll be ready. I am curious to see, though, this Lions defense has added a lot of pieces. Okay, from the draft, you know what, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, you're going to see those guys out there. Carlton Davis, quarterback they're brought in from the Bucs. You mentioned DJ Reader, huge name from Cincy as well on the D-line. Marcus Davenport, another guy who's had some injury concerns. I just named, though, Brant, those last few guys, it's injury. I mean, that's not that I want to go down the injury rabbit hole, but I think there are a lot of unknowns with this defense. Well, they haven't played together. I mean, that's for starters. It's going to take time for them to gel. From a talent standpoint, they've got it. They've got it, and I believe that it's there. I think they got the right guys on the roster, but can they stay healthy? We've already seen Emmanuel Mosley go down yet again, right? And not that I, want to continue to talk about the injury bug, but I just think that I've got to see these guys out there, Brant. Like I got to see James Houston out there. I've got to see these guys start to gel a bit, and I want to see what it looks like. I do think that they are the better football team. I think the Lions offense, in my opinion, is like top 5 in the league. I think that, and the fact that they brought back Ben Johnson, the continuity right now, to be honest with you, that's what has me believing in the Lions. The fact that they were able to run this back with the same coaching staff, basically the same players they had on there before, everybody 1 year older. We know this is a young roster. You're talking year 1, year 2 guys last year that are now taking another step forward. I want to see Jack Campbell take another step forward, right? Like there's guys that I just think they're primed to do something really, really special. They're going to have to execute. And I guess one thing that I wanted to know from you, Brant, just in terms of the Lions in general this year is, do you think Dan Campbell is still going to be Dan Campbell? And what I mean by that is the gambling moves, the stuff that people love and the stuff that people hate. What version of Dan Campbell do you see? Do you feel like we need to see a more seasoned version of Dan Campbell as he's entering this critical year in a team that truthfully is a Super Bowl contender? Or do you think he just needs to keep keep doing what he's been doing because it's been working.
I have to believe Dan wants to grow in some capacity. I have to believe that every season is different. Every game is different. Every down is different, Dave. So I don't want Dan to always be, I got to gamble on it. I got to go for it. I got to do this. I want Dan to critically think in each situation. And if it's on his little card sheet there that says, hey, if I'm in 4th and 3 and it's this time in the third quarter, it's a go for me, then sure, absolutely go for it. And again, time and score matter in every single game. So I want Dan to analyze everything, and I want him to take what he learned in the NFC Championship game and apply it to this year. And I also want to apply all the times that it worked last year and just make the best of what you have. And I think Dan will do that because Dan doesn't come off as like an analytical, super smart guy. Like he just doesn't rub off on you that way. But I low-key think he is. I think that he's very meticulous in the way that he goes about his day. He's got this whole culture in Detroit working for him. He's got the city bought in. He's got like the whole state of Michigan bought into the Detroit Lions, and he's got more than that, Dave. He's got the NFL bought into whatever Dan Campbell's selling. And whether it works out in Detroit or not in the next 5 years, this guy seems like he's gonna just get a job wherever he's gonna want to stop next. Like that's the type of name he's made for himself, Dave. So I think that Dan is going to be an adjustable guy, and I think that he has probably learned from some past mistakes, and he strikes me as the type of guy that will definitely grow.
Yeah, I think that I want to see from this Lions team that they're going to be, which is hard to do in the NFL. They're ready to take this leap into being a perennial contender. I know this team is very good, and Brad Holmes has done an outstanding job putting this roster together. But what we don't know, Brant, is how sustainable it is. We saw what last year looked like, and it was phenomenal. And the expectation, I don't care who you are, the feel-good story is done. You're still America's team. You're America's sweetheart. Everyone's pulling for the Lions. Everybody loves Dan Campbell. We do. I mean, how could you not love what this team, this city, this coach is all about? They're likable. But the Cinderella story is over. You made it there. You were 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl and you didn't get it done. And not that they need to make the Super Bowl to make this a successful season, but they absolutely should be aiming to win this division again and host another playoff game in Detroit and win a playoff game in Detroit. And they should have the expectation every year, and I know they do from here on out, of getting to the NFC Championship game and seeing what happens there. But we don't know. We don't know if they're going to do that, Brant. This is year 2 of a really special something, if you will, that's happening in Detroit. Last year, I know this is like the 4th year for Dan Campbell, but last year was like, oh no, we've arrived. Like, we're serious. I want to see what that looks like in year 2, because I want to believe that the Lions, that this wasn't some, flash in the pan, like that this thing is sustainable. And I do think that it is. I think that it's built to last, but we don't know, right? We don't know. I will be curious to see, 2 months from now, what team we're talking about as we are heading into the Thanksgiving time period of the season, and injuries are piling up and all of that. I'm curious to see where this team is at. Go ahead,
Dave. And you talk about America's team and this and that, and that's great. It's quick. America will turn on you quick too. Like, if you lose a few games, let Caleb Williams catch fire. The Rookie of the Year talk starts taking off. And all of a sudden, now the Bears are America's. You know what I mean? They become the darling, and everybody's backing them. And so this league can flip on you real quick. And I think that this team, I never thought that this team needed to be America's team to get their, to get their vibe going. I think this team is definitely built on hard work. And I think their leaders exemplify that. And I expect the leaders of this franchise as players to take it to the next step, Dave. And you talked about it. I mean, they need to go to, hey, you guys were a cute, cool story last year. That's awesome. But to be perennial in this league, it needs to be a players-led, win after win type deal. And I think they have the players to do it.
Brant, last question before we do the betting segment here next, which you can catch in our next YouTube video. Lions get this thing done Sunday night against the Rams. We don't have to talk spread. You think they get it done?
Just give me a win, Dave. I think the crowd is going to be an enormous factor. And, Dave, I love it to be tight again. I think that this is going to be a typical Sunday night game. Sunday night games seem to be close, Dave. They always are tight, usually division rivals. I love it. In this case, conference rivals. But the Matthew Stafford storyline going back to Detroit again. Let's see what they got, man. Should be a good game. I'll take the Lions, though.
It's going to be a field goal game. I agree. This is going to be a tight one right till the end. Give me the Lions as well.